The Washington Commanders are getting absolutely screwed by the National Football League in 2025, and today on the Commanders Report, I'm going to be explaining why. But before we get into the content today, send in a super thanks if you want to thank our team here at the Commanders Report for giving you guys free, informative, in-depth Commanders content on this channel, absolutely free every single day. And here's what I'm going to do, guys. Everybody that clicks that super thanks button and sends in a donation today of any dollar amount, we're going to give you guys a shout out on tomorrow's edition of the Commanders Report live show. Of course, the live show begins at 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So if you send in a super thanks, make sure you join us at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for your shout out. So let's get into how the NFL is screwing the Washington Commanders based on how they set up their schedule this year. First of all, 8 standalone games is tied for first in the National Football League with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs last year had 8. They had 8 last year. They have 8 this year. And the fact that the Commanders are tied with the Chiefs, all right, the current, quote-unquote dynasty in the National Football League in standalone games this year shows that the NFL feels that the Washington Commanders are among its most, marketable type of teams, with Jaden Daniels, a second-year superstar quarterback going into his second year in the National Football League. Dan Quinn, a high-energy type of coach, a fun offense led by Cliff Kingsbury. Guys like Deebo Samuel, super fun offensive weapons. Of course, who could forget about Terry McLaurin? And then a defense with some really nice young talents like Jerzon Newton, Trey Amos, and others on this defense. I can see why the NFL wanted to put the Commanders in the spotlight this year, but you look at the teams with a lot of primetime games, a lot of times, their schedules can get kind of screwed up, and because of that, it can give them a disadvantage heading into the season. We can talk about some of those disadvantages here. There are 5 opponents for the Commanders this year that have over a week to prepare for them the week prior to their game with the Commanders. That is the second most in the National Football League. So that's 5 opponents that have more than a week to prepare for the team, giving them extra preparation time to be able to prepare to go up against the Washington Commanders. Also, 4 games where Washington has less rest or preparation time than their opponent. That is the third most in the National Football League this year. Also, they have 3 games versus teams coming off of a bye. I believe they play the Giants coming off a bye, Seattle off a bye, and then Chicago off a bye this year. Those are the 3 games. And, when you play teams off a bye, obviously they have a whole week to prepare for you and a whole extra week to prepare for you. Those games are very difficult to win, especially on the road. And then they have 2 short week road games this year as well, Green Bay and Dallas this year, where that's not going to be necessarily something that is going to be working in the Commanders' favor either. So you take a look at the net rest days. This is a figure that Warren Sharp puts together, talking about the rest days that you have versus your opponents, and the Commanders are negative 13. So that is the third lowest in the National Football League. The only teams in the entire league with a lower net rest days rating heading into the season next year are the New Orleans Saints and the Las Vegas Raiders. And you guys can see here, it's the Commanders, Saints, and Raiders that are running away with this metric here, where the NFL is completely screwing those 3 franchises in terms of the amount of rest that they are getting versus the amount of rest their opponents are getting before their football games. And then not only that, guys, but the NFC East is likely going to get hard knocks this year because of all the firepower in that division. Last year it was the AFC North. This year, the favorite to be featured on HBO's in-season version of Hard Knocks, where they feature an entire division in the NFL, is the NFC East, because you got the reigning Super Bowl champions in the Philadelphia Eagles. You've got, quote-unquote, America's team in the Dallas Cowboys. You've got the Commanders, who are an up-and-coming team, and you got the Giants, who have one of the most interesting quarterback rooms in the entire National Football League, and they've got coaches and their GM on the hot seat. So I think that at the NFC East is probably going to get the in-season version of Hard Knocks, and that's just another added kind of distraction that would be put on the Washington Commanders this year, along with all the other adversity that the schedule is already providing them. So coming up here on the Commanders Report, I'm going to give you my updated record prediction for the Washington Commanders now that we kind of know how difficult their schedule is going to be for the 2025 campaign. But before we get into all that, let's have a word from more sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can pick up a brand new Jaden Daniels Commanders jersey and get that in your collection today. Let me tell you something, guys. I watch football players for a living, and I can tell you that Jaden Daniels is going to be one of the all-time greats here in Washington if he can stay healthy. Keep our fingers crossed and knock on wood when it comes to that. But Daniels is a superstar-level talent already in the National Football League. And if you want a jersey that you want to invest in that you can wear probably for the rest of your life, Jaden Daniels is going to be a really good bet for that jersey. So you can go to chatsports.com/Daniels, pick up your Jaden Daniels jersey today. It also helps us out here at the channel because part of the proceeds from that purchase when you go to chatsports.com/Daniels kicks back to us. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. Help yourself out. Help us out. Go to chatsports.com/Daniels and pick up your Jaden Daniels Commanders jersey today. So my record prediction for the Washington Commanders, it's kind of a funky one because I think they're going to start the season very hot. A win at home versus the Giants. They're going to win a tough game against the Green Bay Packers, probably a game-winning touchdown on the road in Lambeau from Jaden Daniels to go to 2-0. Then I think they're going to win versus the Raiders at home and then against Michael Penix Jr. and the Falcons in Week 4. But then a tough stretch, okay? I think they're going to lose 5 straight games because you play Los Angeles on the road in Week 5. That's going to take a lot out of you. Also, you have to play the Chicago Bears the following week, who are coming off a bye on Monday Night Football. They're going to be looking for revenge from last year's Hail Mary game. I think that's going to be a loss. Then I think you're going to split against the Dallas Cowboys this year. I think you're going to be more likely to lose the game on the road than the one at home in Week 17. Then you play the Chiefs at Arrowhead on Monday Night Football. I think that's going to be a tough game. And then you got the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday Night Football on a short week, technically, with the Seahawks coming off a bye. So that's a really difficult game to win there, even though it's at home. So I don't like how the schedule kind of rounds out for the Commanders in that 5-game stretch. But then, you get some more wins, all right? You get that win against the Detroit Lions in Week 10 to kind of get you back on the horse. Then you get a win in Week 11 in Madrid versus the Miami Dolphins. You win against Bo Nix and the Broncos at home on Sunday Night Football in Week 13. You beat the Vikings in their home stadium there in Minnesota in Week 14. Then you get the season sweep versus the Giants in Week 15. I think at that point, Jackson Dart could be playing for the New York Giants, and I don't think Dart gets the upset against the Commanders. Then in Week 16, I'm going to have them win at home when they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to have them win at home on Christmas when they play the Dallas Cowboys. So it's kind of weird. I have them winning 4 straight, then losing 5 straight, then winning a bunch in a row, and then losing their final game of the season versus the Philadelphia Eagles for a final record of 11-6. And of course, that's worse than last year's record where the Commanders went 12-5. But you also have to remember, man, it was a very consistent schedule for the Commanders. They only had a couple of primetime games last year. And it was a very consistent schedule where they were consistently playing in the afternoon on Sundays instead of all those standalone games. Also, their schedule was far easier last year, in my opinion, than it is this year. So I think the ceiling for the Commanders is that they could still have a better record than they had last year at 12-5 with a 13-4 record if things go their way. But I also think the floor is we could be looking at some regression here, specifically if Jaden Daniels doesn't take the next step forward in his development, if they have injuries, all that stuff. I don't think they're going to go 9-8. I think they're going to be more around the 10, 11, 12 win mark there. But my official prediction as of right now is 11-6 and a playoff berth for the Washington Commanders. Now predict it for me down there in the comments section. How many games will the Commanders win this year? And then also let me know if you think they're going to win the division over the Philadelphia Eagles. I think there's a chance of that, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to have more Commanders content coming your way throughout the week. Commanders Report Live is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and join us tomorrow for Commanders Report Live.